You walked into the store for toothpaste. You walked out with $47 of things you never planned to buy. Nobody handed you a bag and told you to grab whatever caught your eye. Item by item, you reached for things yourself. And the unsettling part? You felt like you chose all of it. But the wheels were already in motion before you knew you were making a decision. Let me show you why. In 2007, a team of researchers led by Brian Knutson put people into a brain scanner at Stanford and showed them a stream of ordinary products, one after another, each with a price attached. What they found changed how we think about the moment before a purchase. The instant something caught a person's interest, a small structure deep in the brain called the Nucleus accumbens. Think of it as your anticipation center, lit up before any decision had been made, before the price had even registered. That structure doesn't respond to owning something. It responds to the possibility of it. That's the whole trick behind a sale sign. The discount doesn't make the object better. It makes the possibility feel more urgent, and urgency is what your brain is actually chasing. Here's the part I find genuinely uncomfortable about my own shopping habits. I can tell you exactly which purchases I still use, and exactly which ones I haven't touched since the day I bought them. And the second pile is usually bigger. The hunt was the reward. The object was just where it happened to end. But anticipation is only half the story. The other half happens when you actually have to hand over the money. That same Stanford study found something else, on the opposite end of the decision. When a price felt too high, an entirely different region activated. The insula, the same region that processes physical pain and disgust. And here's the detail that matters. Paying with cash activated it noticeably. Paying with a card barely moved it at all. Picture the same $47 two different ways. One version of you counts out cash at the register, 5, 10, 15 bills, watching the stack in your hand get smaller. Another version of you taps a card against a reader for less than a second. Same total, same items. One of those versions felt something. The other one barely noticed it happen. Researchers Drazen Prelek and Duncan Semester tested exactly how far that gap goes. They ran a real auction at MIT for tickets to a Celtics game. Half the bidders were told they'd pay in cash if they won. Half were told they'd pay by credit card. The card bidders offered nearly double what the cash bidders did, for identical tickets. Nothing about the tickets changed. What changed was how much your brain is willing to let a purchase hurt. Honestly, the first time I read that number, I assumed it had to be a rounding error somewhere in the data. It wasn't. Casinos figured this out decades before neuroscientists did. That's why the chips exist. One-click checkout figured it out more recently, and works for exactly the same reason. Think about what that means the next time your card, not your hand, is the only thing standing between you and a decision. Now here's where it gets stranger. Because your brain doesn't just decide how much pain a price should cause, it decides that some money isn't even real money. Economist Richard Thaler spent years studying what he called mental accounting, the way your brain files money into separate accounts, even though $1 from one account spends exactly the same as $1 from another. Your paycheck lands in what feels like the earned it, protect it account. Your tax refund lands in something closer to a found money. It's basically free account. Same currency. Same bank balance. Two completely different sets of rules running in the same head. That's why you'll defend your paycheck like a dragon guarding treasure and turn around and spend your tax refund on something you'd never normally justify, even though, on paper, it's identical money. The same thing happens with a work bonus, a birthday gift card, or Venmo money. None of it feels like the money in your checking account. Try this. Picture two envelopes sitting on your kitchen counter. One is labeled paycheck. The other is labeled refund. Same exact amount of cash in each. But you'd count the paycheck envelope twice before spending from it. Guard it like that dragon's treasure. And you'd probably reach into the refund envelope without a second thought, before it even has time to feel like real money. The number on the bills never changes. Only the label does. Your brain isn't doing arithmetic here. It's telling itself a story about where the money came from, and the story it tells about bonus money is a lot more permissive than the one it tells about money you worked for. there's one more piece to this, and it might be the sneakiest. In 1990, Daniel Kahneman, Jack Knutson, and Richard Thaler ran an experiment that's since become one of the most cited in behavioral economics. They gave one group of students a coffee mug, then asked the owners what price they'd accept to sell it, and asked a second group what they'd pay to buy one just like it. The sellers wanted, on average, roughly twice what the buyers offered for an identical mug. The only difference between the two groups was a few minutes of ownership. That's the endowment effect. The moment something is sitting in your hands, your brain quietly inflates what it's worth, and giving it back starts to feel like a loss instead of a simple return to zero. Economists had a name for what was supposed to happen instead. It's called the Coase theorem, and it says that if trading is easy, goods end up with whoever values them most, no matter who happens to own them at the start. Ownership shouldn't move the price. Only value should. That's precisely what Kahneman, Knutson, and Thaler set out to test. And it's exactly what didn't happen. The mug owners weren't pricing a mug. They were pricing the discomfort of losing something that was already theirs, and that discomfort turned out to be worth almost as much as the mug itself. It's the psychological engine behind just order it and return it later. It's why free trials convert so well. It's why you still own clothes you've never worn. Parting with them now feels like losing something, even though you never used it in the first place. You didn't buy a wardrobe. You bought 40 future versions of yourself who never see the light of day. So here's the actual fix. And no, it's not going to be a budgeting spreadsheet. The only real fix is recognizing which system is running underneath the decision. When you feel the pull of a sale, that's anticipation talking, not need. The object rarely delivers what the hunt promised. When you reach for a card instead of cash, that's your brain muting its own alarm on purpose. When bonus money feels lighter than earned money, that's a story, not a fact about the dollar. And when something's already sitting in your hands, remember, its price didn't change. Only your relationship to it did. None of these four mechanisms are flaws. They evolved to help a much older version of you survive scarcity, not to navigate a checkout page designed by people who've studied all four of them closely. Your brain is running ancient software on modern hardware. The retailers have studied your brain. The apps are designed around it. But now, you know the code too. The upgrade isn't more willpower. It's knowing the code. Just don't expect this code to come with a coupon. I'm Professor Gray. I'll see you in the next one.